Arch Manning to Ryan Wingo, touchdown Texas. Or in the words of the great Craig Way, say goodnight to it. Man, it's good to say that again. Texas football is back. We've got our biggest takeaways and observations from day one of fall camp on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you find your podcast and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on, and remember to leave a comment. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. We'll have some sound from the coordinators in our final segment of today's show, but the majority of today's episode is going to be dedicated to giving takeaways and observations and practice notes from the first day of fall camp. That's right. We are 31 days away from kickoff. Today is July 30th. Texas will open up the season against Ohio State on August 30th, but the players were on the practice field for the first time this fall earlier today. Steve Sarkisian is actually meeting with the press right now, so we'll have some sound from his press conference during tomorrow's show. But yeah, Texas football is back, and it is a beautiful thing. Guys, we're in helmets and shorts today, so no full contact just yet. The pads have not come on. That's kind of a good thing because it is hot in Texas today. 99 degrees. Feels like in the triple digits. Guys were being given watermelon slices and fruit cups during practice. I'm not sure I had ever seen that or heard of that before. Obviously, they had their water, they had their Gatorade, the usual fluids, but guys were being served food on the sidelines in between drills just to make sure that they were staying fueled up and ready to go for the entire day. There was a 1-hour media practice session. I did not go. I talked to a number of folks who were there, did some research as well. So we've got some big takeaways from day one of camp. Some macro observations first and foremost. This team looks the part. I mean, this is a big team. There are a lot of first guy off the bus players on the 2025 Texas Longhorns. They're big, they're long. I mean, some of the pictures and videos that I've seen from today, and it's not just the starters too. This is everybody, even the freshmen, guys who just got here, they look the part. Big macro takeaway. Some of the more micro things. CJ Baxter, guy that every Texas fan has been talking about for a long time, right? We're trying to figure out what version of CJ Baxter we're going to get in 2025. It's only day one of camp. There's good news and bad news with CJ Baxter. The bad news, I don't know if this is really bad news. I think it's expected with the knee injury that he suffered about 12 months ago. He was wearing a very big brace on his right knee. The good news, he was out there with the ones a lot. He was kind of interchanging with Quintravion Wisner, getting those reps with the number ones during walkthroughs, during team drills, during 11s, during pretty much everything. I mean, it seemed like CJ Baxter was a full participant today. He wasn't going 100%, but he was out there a lot. And, I wasn't quite sure. We've heard good things. Steve Sarkisian in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago talked about CJ Baxter progressing the way that they wanted to and him being close. I wasn't quite sure, considering he didn't really do anything during the spring, how long it was going to take Baxter to get, kind of thrown into the fire here in fall camp. Were they going to have to ease him into things for the first few days? It seemed like he was a full participant today, and that was great news. And, it's interesting that he's getting reps with the ones. I still think Trey Wisner is going to get the first snap in the first game, but will we have a 1A, 1B kind of situation with those two guys? Wisner's coming off a tremendous year, the only returning 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC. Reason to believe he's gotten better, put on a few pounds this offseason, worked on a few things as well. So I think he's going to be hard to leave on the sideline. But if CJ Baxter looks like the guy he looked like in 2023, and he looks like the number one running back recruit in America, which he was coming out of high school, and it's going to be tough to leave him on the sideline as well. And we know Steve Sarkisian loves him some CJ Baxter, right? CJ Baxter was Texas's number one running back in the very first game of his college career. He started over Jonathan Brooks to begin the 2023 season. I don't think that was the right decision, but I bring that up to say Sark does like CJ Baxter, and it seems like, a serious knee injury and surgery did not take away that love. So again, Baxter wearing a brace, expected, no surprise. He'll probably rock that. Plenty of good running backs wear knee braces, but he was, again, very close to a full participant on day one. Maybe the biggest surprise from a depth chart standpoint, true freshman cornerback Grayson Littleton was lining up with the ones a lot today on defense, mainly at the nickel position. Walkthrough drills, team-specific stuff. I mean, he was rotating a little bit, but when the coaching staff yelled for the nickel-based defense at the start of 11s, he was the guy who ran out there. Now, the rest of the ones in the secondary, you had Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo as the outside corners. No surprise there. Michael Taff and Jelani McDonald were the number one safeties. No real surprise there. And then the nickel guy, the star guy, was Grayson Littleton. An interesting story. Littleton wasn't even supposed to be here for the spring. It was kind of a last-minute decision for him to enroll early, and he went through spring practice, did a really good job, drew the attention of the coaches. Now, Jeff Banks yesterday actually mentioned Grayson Littleton's name as a freshman who had been standing out, but I kind of thought, because it was Jeff Banks who said it, it was more of a special teams kind of thing. Like, we'll see Littleton a lot on special teams this year because he's a great athlete and he's fast and this, that, and the other. But yeah, I didn't think it would be, he's going to be running with the ones during day one of fall camp. That is crazy, right? I don't know what that means for a Kobe Black. I don't know what that means for a Warren Roberson. I don't know if that means anything. It's the first day of fall camp and guys aren't even in pads yet. They could go out there for practice tomorrow and he could be working with the threes, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see if this is prolonged. That's not something you see very often, especially considering how deep and experienced and talented this Texas roster is. Like, most of the freshmen who are out there were working with the threes and the fours today. It's not a bad thing. That's just, again, it goes to show you where this Texas roster is right now. But Grayson Littleton, do not sleep on him. Again, my biggest surprise from a depth chart standpoint on day one, the amount of reps that guy was getting with some of the starters on the number one defense. Speaking of the number one defense, we'll go up to the defensive line. Obviously, a position that every Texas fan is going to be paying a lot of attention to throughout camp. Travis Shaw and Hero Kanu, a couple of transfers, were the starting defensive tackles today. Travis Shaw in from UNC. Big body, was dealing with a lingering knee issue during the spring. So, it was out there, but he wasn't a full participant. Sounds like he's got most of that behind him. Hero Kanu, the transfer from Ohio State, a guy who played in every game for the Buckeyes last season. Not a starter, didn't put up crazy stats, but a guy was good enough to get a scholarship offer from Ohio State coming out of school and then is transferred to Texas. Both of those guys were here for the spring. Cole Brevard was the third defensive tackle transfer who was here for the spring. He was working with the twos alongside Alex January, who is one of just two returning scholarship players that the Longhorns have on the interior of that defensive line. But yeah, Travis Shaw and Hero Kanu with the ones. Again, they want to practice. Those guys are going to rotate all month long and throughout the year as well. Cole Brevard and Alex January with the twos. Justice Terry and Josiah Sharma were with the third team defense. And Justice Terry was kind of going back and forth between defensive tackle and edge. Recruited and signed as a defensive lineman out of high school, but he's about 265 to 270. I think they've got him listed at 268 on the official Texas roster right now. So a little bit undersized compared to the other defensive tackles on this roster and just your stereotypical SEC DT. So I think that's why Justice Terry's working off the edge too. And I think he's got that quick twitch and some of the other traits that you want to see from an edge rusher. But yeah, obviously curious, one of the crown jewels of the Horns' number one recruiting class, where was Justice Terry going to be working? On the first practice, he was bouncing around, playing a couple of different positions on the defensive line. Heard a lot of good things about Josiah Sharma today, a guy who is big, a guy who carries his weight, and a guy who's got some fast twitch for a guy, 350, 360. So again, blue chip guys, number one recruiting class in America. These dudes aren't just comfortable sitting for a year. I know there are older guys on the depth chart ahead of them right now, but they're not just comfortable with sitting back and saying, "Oh no, we'll wait our turn. We'll be good. Those guys have waited. They're ready. We'll give them their chance. And when it's our turn, we'll step up and make some things happen." No, that's not how these guys operate. So big moment for some of these freshmen, and some of these guys looked really good today. Last nugget for this opening segment, and we'll have more in segment 2. Going to the offensive line, Brandon Baker was the guy working with the ones way more often than not at right tackle. The starting 5 on the offensive line, as expected, going from left to right: Trevor Gooseby, Neto Umeozulu, Cole Hudson, DJ Campbell, Brandon Baker. I think that's what most people thought was going to be the case. That was the case today. Andre Kojo did get some run with the ones at right tackle, but Brandon Baker was the guy who was out there for the majority of the snaps today. I think that's best case scenario for Texas. No disrespect to Kojo. I think he's going to play. You need depth on the offensive line, but Baker, the former 5-star, I just think the ceiling for him is higher than just about everybody on that Texas offensive line. If he pans out, then he's going to be great, and Texas is going to be set at that right tackle spot. But Kyle Flood said it yesterday, and his availability, it's an open competition at right tackle. Now, actions speak louder than words. So, again, Baker getting most of the reps with the ones, that tells me more than Kyle Flood saying it's an open competition, because sometimes coaches will just say stuff to motivate their guys. So maybe that's hey, Brandon Baker, like, you got to go out and earn it. You're going to get the first reps on day one, but this thing's not going to be handed to you. If you're messing around during camp, Andre Kojo, we believe in him. He's good enough. He could take your job. Maybe that was just a message sent from Kyle Flood. Again, we'll see how things go as camp progresses, but the starting offensive line as expected on practice number 1. So there you go. That's one segment. We got more observations, more takeaways from day 1 of Texas fall camp, including a few notes on the quarterback, Arch Manning. Oh yeah, it's coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at 5 Hour Energy. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories for friends this summer, this one is a hole-in-one for your energy game. If you're out there on the court, you're in Central Texas, you're golfing, you're outside, you're grilling, you're just walking around. It's hot out there. In the sun, in the heat, it can drain you. That's where 5 Hour Energy comes in. They give you that extra boost so you can stay sharp and energized. And of course, if you've got a long day at work as well, you need that as well. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5, 5hourenergy.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This is only valid through September 30th. They've got you. The code is not good on subscription orders. This is just a one-time deal. Again, 5hourenergy.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. More news, notes, and nuggets from Texas fall camp. We'll go back to the defensive side of the ball to start things off here. Trey Moore, he was working with the second-team defense at linebacker. We know he's going through a position change. I think we'll see Trey Moore off the edge some in 2025. Remember, he started all 16 games at edge for Texas in 2024. During the spring, we found out that he was working more as an off-ball linebacker, and, well, that has transitioned. That transition has transitioned into the fall. Anthony Hill and Leon Galafau were your two first-team linebackers. No surprise there. Those are your returning starters from a season ago. But Trey Moore working with Ty Anthony Smith as the second-team linebackers for this defense. Going to the edge room, Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke, your first-team guys there. So Simmons obviously a starter for most of last season. Ethan Burke played a ton. Seems like he's going to be your technical starter at edge more often than not in 2025. I love Ethan Burke. Know him personally. Great dude. It's a contract year for him. I expect him to have a great season. I expect him to be an NFL draft pick in April, but he looks good, man. He looks a little leaner, and I think, he was great against the run. Only 2 sacks, and I know sacks don't tell the whole story, but I think the numbers, I think the eye test, I think everything's going to go up with Ethan Burke. And playing opposite of Colin Simmons with all the attention that he is going to get from opposing offensive lines should open up some doors for Ethan Burke. So again, Trey Moore working out with the linebackers more today than anything. Going back to the offensive side of the ball, man, Ryan Wingo, that guy looked incredible. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, we saw it in spurts last year. Wasn't asked to do a ton. Felt like more of a gadget guy for the Longhorn offense, but we know his role is going to be increased with everything that Texas lost in that wide receiver room. Wingo looks bigger. He looks fast. He looks smooth. He catches everything. He had a great day. Yeah, there were no pads on. It was helmets and shorts. And yeah, a lot of his routes were being run against air, but he did just about everything right. And those new eyes, remember he had LASIK surgery in the offseason. Yeah, he was catching everything today. So talking about potentials, there's a lot of potential in the entire Texas wide receiver room. I don't think anybody has more of it than the former 5-star Ryan Wingo. Can't wait to see what he does in year 2. And I can't wait to see what Emmett Mosley V does in year 1. His first practice with Texas, one of those post-spring transfers that the Longhorns added, put up really good numbers in his first year of college football at Stanford a year ago. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. Wasn't working with the ones a ton today. It felt like a lot of the post-spring transfers, Emmett Mosley, Murad Watson, I'll throw him in this mix. Jack Endry's a little bit of an exception. We'll talk about him in a second. It feels like Levon Johnson, most of those guys were like a little bit behind just in terms of, where they were working today. I don't know if that's Sark and company just saying, hey, you guys are new. Like, you got to kind of earn your stripes here at Texas, or if it's they don't have the playbook figured out yet. I don't know. But Emmett Mosley, even though he wasn't on the field all the time with the number ones, he was making some things happen today. Speaking of Jack Endry's, a lot of what he did early was with the number 3 offense, right? Spencer Shannon was the number 1 tight end at first. Jordan Washington was with the 2s. Endry's was kind of working in there. But when the offense converted into a full 11 to run actual plays, Jack Endry's was the first guy with the ball in his hand. Like, Manning took a snap from Cole Hudson, play action, fake to Quintravion Wisner, and then just a PA bootleg throw to the flat. Jack Endry's the first catch. I think that's a play we're going to see a few times, and I think the Manning to Endry's combination or connection is one that we're going to be talking about a lot when the games start to count. But yeah, that's, Jack Endry's may have not been starting as a starter. That guy's the best tight end that Texas has. And yeah, him getting the first catch in the real drills, that tells you a little something. Another interesting note, that play was in 12 personnel. Spencer Shannon was lined up as the other starting tight end. He's 6'7", about 250, probably the best inline blocker that Texas has. He's going to have a role as that. Maybe have a role in the passing game too, but Shannon is, I think you're going to see him a lot. Texas runs more 11 personnel than anything, but their second most used package is 12 personnel. So Spencer Shannon, Jordan Washington, those guys are going to be on the field a lot in 2025. Speaking of pass catchers, Parker Livingston, yesterday Kyle Flood was asked about which receivers outside of Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore are standing out. And he just raved about Parker Livingston for 15 to 20 seconds and said he's just a guy who does everything right. And for the folks who were there at practice today, they saw that on full display. Strong day of practice for Livingston, specifically on balls down the sideline. Just a great route runner, knows where he is, great hands, great feet. Manning and Livingston, there's something there with those two guys. They were hanging out a lot in the offseason, making TikToks and stuff together. My guess is they were playing a little catchy catch this offseason too to build up that chemistry. Livingston's going to be a problem, man. I know he didn't play much last year, didn't have a catch in his first year on the 40, but loved that pickup out of high school. He put up some great numbers at Lovejoy. And yeah, there's talent around him in that wide receiver room. Livingston's going to be a big part of that pass catcher group. I think you're going to like what you see from him. I think the Texas wide receivers are going to be great. I don't have as much of a concern or as many questions about those guys as I think a number of Longhorn fans do. I feel great about what that group is going to be. And Arch Manning, we'll do that. And then a quick special teams nugget. Arch Manning, clearly the leader of this team. He is pumping up his teammates all day long. He had the energy. He let out some audible let's goes after the other quarterbacks made good plays. He got mad at himself a couple of times. He let out a few expletives today. He missed a pass on a rollout to the aforementioned Parker Livingston. They were also doing a strip drill where he was running, 10 yards, and a couple of Texas DBs were like trying to strip the ball out of his hands, and he did fumble on one of those. He yelled an F-bomb. Sark actually got on him a little bit for that as well. So the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion, all that stuff's there for Arch. And y'all, I'm sure I've already seen some clips surfacing on social media of these some of these dimes that Arch was dropping. Again, a lot of them against air, but he throws a pretty ball, man, especially those deep balls. That's going to be a change for this Texas offense this year, I think. A lot more explosive plays and a lot more success with those deep shots down the field. All right, I promised a special teams nugget. Now we're getting through a lot today. We might not get to all the coordinator sound we wanted, but we'll get this special teams note real quick. Punt returners. There were 3 guys working as the return men today. DeAndre Moore, Ryan Niblett, and Dalen McCutcheon. Yesterday, we won't play this cut since I'll just tell you what Jeff Banks said. Yesterday, Jeff Banks was asked that very question. Hey, who are your leading returners right now? He mentioned 3 names. DeAndre Moore and Ryan Niblett were 2 of them. He also said Trey Wisner's name, and that caught me and a bunch of other people by surprise. It's like, your number 1 running back? Like, you're going to put him back there? That felt like a shock. And, hey, Reggie Bush did it when he was at USC. I'm not saying Trey Wisner is that, but, there have been number 1 running backs who have been punt returners in college football. But that one caught me by surprise a little bit. Today at practice, doesn't sound like Trey Wisner was back there. Maybe he'll be more of a kickoff return guy. Something to obviously monitor going forward, but obviously no Silas Bolden this year, so you need a new punt returner. DeAndre Moore, the freshman Dalen McCutcheon, who was very impressive in the spring, and then Ryan Niblett, who I don't even know what position he plays anymore. Started at wide receiver, went to running back. I thought he was playing safety, but Kyle Flood talked about him as a receiver yesterday. Now he's a returner. You love guys like that. Incredibly selfless. Niblett seemingly willing to do whatever he needs to do to help his team win. That's awesome, and that's hard to find nowadays. Maybe he is going to be one of your return specialists this year. So there you go. You know what? One more nugget here. One play against air. Arch dropped back, launched a bomb to Parker Livingston. Perfect throw. Before the ball was even completed, Sark yelled, "I love this S, man." Perfect play. He knew it was perfect. The timing, the execution, footwork, the throw, the catch. Livingston caught. That's what you want to see. Football's back, man. Football's back. A lot of energy, a lot of good vibes out there. Wasn't a perfect practice. Never is on day one, but a lot to be excited about if you are a Longhorn fan. And I got a hunch most of you are. All right, one segment left. It'll be a quick one. We'll just get to 1 or 2 bits of sound from the coordinator availabilities that went down yesterday. Don't go anywhere. It's coming up right here on Locked On Longhorns. All right, back here on Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Final segment of Wednesday show. A little bit of sound from the coaches. We'll go Kyle Flood today. We might save the rest of this for tomorrow. We'll also have some Steve Sarkisian sound as well because he's holding a press conference today. But Kyle Flood, the offensive coordinator, it's rare. We don't get to hear from the 3 coordinators very often. Steve Sarkisian kind of goes with that Nick Saban strategy. He does all of the talking. He meets with the press every week, and he just doesn't let his coordinators speak. I don't think that's a big deal. I think the coordinators are probably perfectly fine not having to answer questions from the press every single week, but that's just the way Sark does it. So it's a big deal when we do get to hear from Kyle Flood and Pete Kwiatkowski and Jeff Banks. We'll get you this one from Coach Flood, who's the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach for the Horns. He was asked very early on yesterday about the red zone offense. It's what every Texas fan hates talking about, but it's something that needs to be talked about. The red zone woes from last year And how do you make sure those don't come back in 2025?
Yeah, that bothers us too as coaches. I think, for us, obviously, when we put a game plan together, we want to execute the plays and score touchdowns in the red area. And it was, if you go back 2 years ago, the red area was a field zone where we made improvement, but we're not up to the standards that we expect to be up to. And certainly when it happens in a game like that, it gets even more notice and, unfortunate. But what I would say to you is, like, the players we're going to have when we go into game one this year will be considerably different than the players we had at the end of last year. So we've got a new group. We got to find out what their strengths are as we go through training camp and ultimately design a game plan that works for them.
So there's Kyle Flood. And the thing that he said at the end gives me the most confidence that the Horns are going to turn it around in the red area. Number one, like, it can't get worse, right? I think maybe I said that after 2023, and in a lot of ways it did get worse in 2024. So maybe I should bite my tongue before saying that. But look, I trust in the coaching staff. I trust in Sark. He's one of the best offensive minds in the sport. I trust in Kyle Flood. He's good enough to be a head coach at other schools. Texas has the right, minds trying to fix this thing. But what gives me the most faith is the personnel. It's the personnel, like Arch Manning, having a dual threat quarterback. I think a guy who's also a little bit more confident in his arm than Quinn Ewers was. That was like my biggest knock on Quinn Ewers besides the injury thing. I just didn't think he believed in himself enough. And in the red area with those tight windows, when there's not enough space to spread the ball, like, you got to be damn sure and you got to believe 100% in what you're doing. And you got to be on time and on target. And at times, Quinn Ewers just wasn't that. Looked like he was a split second slow and a little hesitant on some of his reads. I just don't expect that with Arch Manning. And again, the fact that you have a quarterback who can run. Oddly enough, Texas's best red zone offense came in Steve Sarkisian's worst year, 5-7. Why? Well, I think part of it is you had Hudson Card and Casey Thompson who could both move at quarterback. Last 3 years, Quinn Ewers, love him. Kind of a statue back there. So Arch Manning, the opposite of that. Then you got CJ Baxter back too. 230 pounds, running back. That'll help. Love Trey Wisner. Love Jarrett Gibson. Those guys are around 200 pounds. I know Jarrett Gibson's got the Baby Rhino nickname, and he does bulldoze people, but he's about 200, 205 pounds last season. Those 20 to 25 pounds in the red area, especially near the goal line, those matter. Those can make a difference a little bit. So, Jack injuries too. I mean, there's a lot of the personnel changes I think will benefit Texas. Obviously, the offensive line's got to be good. That's on Kyle Flood to make sure those guys are a little nastier down near the paint. But I got a hunch that things are going to be a lot better there. So there you go. We'll have more sound from the coaches tomorrow, including Steve Sarkisian, and more takeaways, more big observations from the first day of practice and some stuff from day 2. We might post these a little bit later, especially while practice is in the afternoon, just so we can react right away and give you all what you are hopefully looking for. But that's going to do it for today's show. If you made it this far, number 1, thank you. Number 2, please remember to like, subscribe, turn those notifications on, and leave a comment, please. That is one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, be sure to check out Locked On Bets. My man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they've got you covered. Expert analysis, game picks, the lock of the day, all of your sports betting needs, all in one place. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. More Texas fall camp conversation coming your way tomorrow, but that'll do it for today. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.